What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is another episode of Strange Planet. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the selling of your data and companies buying and selling all your personal information. But I don't think a lot of people really know what that really means, how they're getting it. And it goes further than just social media. We're talking because of your phone at this point, they can basically almost monitor everything you're doing, your history, your browsing history, everything. They can get their hands on it, and then they're somehow making money off it, is selling it to other people and or other companies or whatnot. But someone else who can give you maybe a better, further analysis on this with some information is Rook.
Yeah. So for, with the advent of the internet, various companies have taken it upon themselves to take advantage of people's data and people's willingness to share their data, either willingly or unwillingly or unwittingly. So in the early 90s, when the internet was first starting, there was a company, I don't know if people are old enough to remember it, but it was called Netscape. And they came out with the first major internet browser.
I do remember it.
And it was called Netscape Navigator. And, Microsoft with its Internet Explorer, they kind of took over, and that's why they got their antitrust lawsuit, because they packaged that with Windows and unfairly took advantage of the fact that they sell. But, I'm getting off topic. So Netscape created what was called cookies, or what are known as cookies. And they are little software that gets installed on your computer through your browser when you go to a website. And almost every major or even small website, non-commercial website, has cookies. And what they do is they sit on your computer and through your browser track all of your history. Now they can collect various information about you, whether it's your name, your number, just what websites you browse. I mean, it's even possible that they could, get other more sensitive information. But what they really have served to do is to create this sort of collection of what's known as big data, which is just a massive amount of data on people, from what kind of foods they like, to what kind of movies they like to watch, what kind of games they like to play, who they're dating. And this data is very valuable to companies. Now, Facebook, which is now known as Meta, the company that made Facebook basically created its whole business model on collecting people's data and selling it to advertisers. So when you go on Facebook, you may have noticed that if you scroll down and you see an ad, it generally pertains to something that you've browsed in, the recent past, or, talked about, or, it's very eerie when, you may have, on your phone or on your computer, thought about something or talked about something or went to a website that engaged with some topic, and then you see an ad for something that's either directly related or almost directly related to that topic. And it's because of things like cookies that they install, on your computer, and they sit there and just collect massive amounts of information and report back to, the website. Now, there are some valid uses for cookies. They contain information about, the user. And so they can allow, a more customized experience. Like if you're on Amazon, you can get, Amazon's probably a bad example because you're logged into that. But let's say you're just going to a website that you normally go to. They don't really have an account, but they'd like to show you relevant stuff. they can do that through the use of cookies because they know who you are, you've been there before, and they can automatically present you with the stuff that you're interested in. And so that's, pretty much a valid use of cookies. And when you may have noticed these things when you go on a website and you'll get a pop-up, like usually at the bottom of either your phone or your web browser, and it says, to accept.
The
Those are
terms,
the
right?
well, yeah, but those are often, there's terms and agreements, but then there's also cookie policies, like privacy policies that include information about what type of data they're going to collect from you. And now they're giving you options with respect to what data you're willing to share. And you can opt out of a lot of the data, except for like the most essential data that you can share with companies. So there's a lot of concern about how companies like Facebook built built their business model off of people's data. Facebook recently settled a class action lawsuit against them that, essentially since I think 2007, they have,
Wow.
been collecting people's data and selling it. And, this was really without people's permission
Consent.
or knowledge and consent. Right. And so they've sold data directly to, companies about you and, took advantage of the fact that you're using their service. Yeah, it's free, but it came at a cost. And that cost is, your privacy and your right not to be analyzed and studied, against your will or, unwittingly. And so there's a lot of, I guess, there are benefits to data sharing, like I mentioned, but we're getting to a point where it's just so pervasive and pernicious in terms of marketing, trying to squeeze every last ounce of cash out of people these days because times are more desperate. And it's not just the sales side of things, it's also the content. When it's sort of like, in the old days when there were like 5 channels on TV. Now there are hundreds or thousands of channels, and there's a lot more competition for people's attention. And the same thing with the internet. Before there were just like when the internet first came out, there were things like AOL, which like, was your gateway to access like the internet. And they kind of like had, certain areas that you could browse and go to, and they kind of controlled your access to the internet. Whereas now it's wide open. You can get information from anywhere and any number of websites, and they all want your attention. And so, especially social media sites, which are great for in terms of being able to gather data because they can know about people's social behaviors, which are valuable because humans are social creatures. So they want people to stay on their platform and not go to other platforms so they can continue selling ads because that's what makes, their ad space valuable. Like if you were going to buy an ad for the Super Bowl or buy an ad on some channel no one heard about, that's why buying ads for the Super Bowl is more valuable. You have to pay a premium to get your content in front of people. And so that's why it pays when social media sites like Facebook, they need to keep you on their platform as much as possible, or like YouTube or whatever. They want to keep you on their platform as much as possible. And so it pays for them to develop a profile of your likes and dislikes and all your behavior. And it's not just like, they have humans there sitting on the other side saying, ooh, I bet this person would like this or that. No, there are highly sophisticated computer algorithms that can study massive amounts of data and predict what people will like, even to the extent that they don't even know themselves. So, one of the shocking things is that they're using this sort of big data collection. They can tell things like when a woman is pregnant before the woman even knows, because the amount of data that they
Wow.
gather, and the algorithm has been built by studying data from all people's shopping habits and everything. And so they don't even like understand, exactly what behaviors indicate, a woman's pregnancy. But somehow the algorithm has tied all of this together using machine learning and will output, this woman is highly likely to be pregnant. And so that information is valuable because you can start sending, ads and coupons
To
for
specific areas,
for baby products or
formula.
classes. Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
and you could start, advertising your brand to them, like, ooh, like Huggies diapers or, things like that. And so it's very valuable information for people to have, for companies to have. And I don't think people were prepared for a world like this, and it's just getting sort of worse and worse.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the landscape right now.
Yeah, because most people, you figure, have no idea that this is even probably going on.
Right, and even if they do have some inkling, they don't know the extent to which it's occurring, and they don't know. I mean, basically, when you go to a website, you really, that cookie acceptance window pops up. You just want to click out and get that the fuck away so you can get onto your content. You don't
Right,
really want to
right.
see that. You're like, fine, I'll accept. I've seen these things. They're on every fucking website,
They really
and
are.
so it's just annoying. Like, get out of my way. Like, am I really going to go in and, it's way too much to manage.
That would probably
Uh,
would also explain, like, I mean, this is a little different, but say you go on Amazon and you search a couple of items to buy, maybe even put a few in your cart, but don't actually buy them. But then if you go over to Facebook or something and start scrolling down, guess what advertisement you're probably going to see? Whatever you just searched for or whatever's in that
oh, yeah.
bag. Yeah, isn't that ironic? Like,
Oh, yeah. And, it's getting even confusing to tell who is tracking whom, and who is selling that data to whom, because there's just so much data being collected. And it's not even like so much like Amazon's collecting information about browsing, but other companies, like other websites, could be collecting information about your Amazon browsing. So
right.
it may not even be Amazon.
Right, it's other companies entirely. Wow, that's crazy. That's really what that is. And another experiment I did once, and you could even try this for anyone listening as well, just for the hell of it. I remember I just picked my phone up and I said Captain Morgan, the rum company, obviously, a bunch of times. And then I went onto like Twitter or like, Facebook and started scrolling. And motherfucker, wouldn't you know it? Guess what the advertisement was? Captain Morgan. So it's hard to tell that maybe the microphones in these phones are listening to more than you think. So that's why when people were talking about like dumb shit, like the vaccine had a microchip in it, you already have the microchip. It's your phone. You've been carrying it with you the whole time. This is the real eye in the sky. It's kind of scary. But now my next question I was going to bring up was, I think the people would be interested too. Is there anything that can be done about this?
Well, that's a good question, because there are some laws that pertain to this, but they're mostly old, and it's all over the map. So there's a law that protects like minors in terms of data collection. But other than that, and that was passed like, in the early 2000s, maybe. But like, other than that, the major legislation governing privacy that was passed by the European Union. So the EU has the GDPR, people may have heard of. It's the General Data Protection Regulation. And that
Okay.
basically does what we should do here in the United States, which is to say that, people have rights when it comes to their data. They have a right to, see what data is being collected about them, and they have a right to have it deleted if they don't want people to have it. and they have a right to sort of object to the processing of that data. So unfortunately, there's not that equivalent in the U.S., but it's definitely a good thing. It positively impacts the US in the sense that a lot of internet companies, since internet is global and the European Union is a big block of countries that has a high population,
Right.
and so they have to kind of take that into account when they're conducting internet services. So like California is also has like a similar consumer rights legislation for in the United States. Now, California is only one state, but it's the highest population state, and so companies again must that into account
Right. Right.
when they're considering policies. And so you have seen some movement toward sort of self-regulation by companies because they don't want to get sued by the state of California, and because it is a genuine concern. But as far as federal law,
Nothing.
the U.S. Congress has been asleep at the wheel for a very long time, and
I figured so.
they just let these companies like Facebook have at our data for all these years, and
I can say this much. I don't know if this helps in any way, because I'm sure even if you did this, they might find a way around it anyway. But I know specifically with Facebook in general, if you check the privacy settings, now I don't remember exactly where this was in there, but I do remember seeing it in there. I'm sure someone's got a video on YouTube or even on the site itself, someone's probably got it. But Facebook itself not only is doing what Rook was just saying, but believe it or not, there's a section in the privacy section of Facebook where not only are they doing that, they are also like there's a list of all of the apps that you frequently use that they know about. So say you go on Facebook, then say you go on Twitter, then say you go to Amazon app, and then say you go, I don't know, play a game or something, and then check the MLB app or something. If you were to go back to Facebook, find this area that I'm talking about, believe it or not, in that order, it's going to have every one of those apps that you just opened up to check. So they know what you're doing. Now, the good news is you can turn it off there. Now, does it stay off? Is there another way around it? I think it's probably likely, but I would highly recommend you look into that and do that just to, I mean, a little protection is better than nothing.
But honestly, it's like playing whack-a-mole because, you visit more sites, you use more apps, and they're all, going to have these cookies and web beacons that, track their activity.
And you need that in order to use their website. So like
and you just click accept and that's it. You signed away your rights to the data.
Basically, just like that. It's a snap of a finger, just so you can, observe their website. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Just want to get to the fucking content, like read the article or watch the video, like
right. And it's like, they got to take your information in order for you to do that. But I don't know if this is another thing I was going to say. I don't know if this makes a big difference or not. But technically, obviously, every internet browser, you can delete the history, but that's not good enough because the cookies are still installed. But if you go into Safari and do a factory reset and delete everything, the cookies will be deleted. But then if you go back,
I don't know if you need to do a factory reset.
No, not like a factory reset to the entire phone. Like, for example,
you need to clear your browsing history, including cookies. Not everyone has Safari, by the way. Some of us like Android.
Yeah, but they have it too. I just don't know where it is on that phone because obviously I have an iPhone. But like, you can do that and it will delete the cookies. But then if you go back to that website, it's going to reinstall
every browser has their option to delete browsing history, and then one of the options under that is to also delete cookies. You can do that in any browser. The problem is when you go back to that website, they don't know who you are, and so
they're going to ask again.
So they're going to ask you again, and it's kind of annoying because then they won't have like the things that are convenient for you, and so it's an uphill battle.
For real.
And when it comes to like information, we just come to expect that our information is either out there and people know it, or we just I guess don't really care anymore. But on the flip side, we don't really recognize the extent to which that data can be then turned around and used against us in manipulative ways.
Right, right.
And I think if people knew the extent to which that is occurring, they might think differently about how exposed their data is.
And how much is being bought and sold on a regular.
It's not even so much the bought and sold. It's the manipulation of people. Like you go on Facebook, and it's become a very toxic platform, because what they do is they show you a whole bunch of articles and stuff. Where you scroll down, you want to see stuff that your friends wrote or whatever, but in between, then you have to go through all these fucking articles. It's not even ads at that point. They're fucking articles that want to keep you engaged in a platform. And they're designed to be emotionally manipulative. They're things that you care about, that they've studied, that you care about, and that you will be angry about and move to action about, and will keep you scrolling on their platform. Will keep
And-
your eyes glued to that.
And commenting and liking and all that shit.
Right. And so they know exactly what to show you to keep you engaged. And I think that plays a large role in like how fucked up our society is right now. How just cynical and just upset our country is. And you can't, and how politically divided it is, because the thing that keeps people engaged is to keep them pissed, and these algorithms are just showing people content that pisses them off and keeps them pissed off every day. And it just keeps showing them more and more divisive content, and I think that's been really unhealthy for our political system.
Yeah. And mentalities.
Right, and as well as our psychological well-being.
See, that's the scary part about it, because it lets them have more control. Because sure, you might follow your favorite sports team and you'll get those updates and stuff like that. But then there's the counter side, and it's going to throw that at you too, just to like press your buttons. And it's all intentional. It's all part of the system, you know what I mean, to keep you drilled. Because if you're commenting on something you like, that's what they like. But then when they put something you don't like that might, cause a trigger warning or something, they know you're going to say something or you might do something.
But here's where it really gets scary, because they collect all this data from us, like typing into our phones and into our computers. They can track our shopping habits and whatever. However, there's been one like facet of ourselves that we don't share with the world, unless we choose to, and that's like the data that's contained in our brains. So, you can think thoughts, and those thoughts are your own. And whether you choose to share them or not with other people, that's data that companies can't have yet.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Now, the way technology is advancing, that's the next step for companies.
You're right.
Companies like Facebook and Neuralink, which is an Elon Musk company, they want to be able to gather data about your brain. And, maybe we should do an episode about this. But there's
Sounds
some
like a good
really
idea.
scary shit that's, coming forward. So combined with like machine learning, which is the advanced AI that powers things like ChatGPT, they can study like brain waves, which you don't even really need to, put, sensors inside people's heads. It used to be that, you had to like cut people's heads open and put, sensors in their brains. You don't have to do that anymore, because you can gather data about people's like nerves, because your brain sends signals to the rest of your body. And so you can gather data and develop data about behavioral patterns through this information. And it won't be long before people can derive things about that data that they gather, like whether, they can tell whether you're focused on a task. And like countries like, I think China, they have like brain devices on people who operate trains. And the point is that the moment they're like not focused on their job in terms of, driving the train, that sends an alert and says, "Oh, you're not paying attention." Like,
Wow.
and so it's those type of things that, you know, will sort of be at play in the future. And people willingly take those jobs. And there's an argument to say that, yeah, if you're operating a train, especially during late night hours or whatever, where you might be tired and passing out and, dangerous jobs like that, you want your employees to be focused. There's an argument to say that monitoring people's brains like that is actually, a safety issue. On the other side, what happens when that technology sort of gets broadened to productivity that's not to ensure safety, but
Right.
just
Just in
to
general.
ensure profitability? And so they'll be able to tell all types of data, like whether you're disappointed in terms of negotiating for salaries and things like that. And in this increasingly competitive environment in which people are desperate for work and for good work, people might be willing to trade away some of that privacy in order for a paycheck. And that's the scary part about it.
Giving them a lot more control, isn't it now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to be wary of in the future. And if you thought data collection was bad now,
Yeah.
just wait till they start gathering it about our brains and can, predict things like whether someone is likely to be depressed, or, you know, whether, someone's like, if you had like a salary negotiation and your boss knows that you would accept like a lower salary, they could be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to offer him this amount of money because I know they will accept it."
Right. And take
Uh,
advantage is what's going to
and,
happen.
and so and if you don't think that this is going to happen, there you should do some research into some other cognitive brain science that's going on now. Like, they're making serious advances in terms of like, having like maybe a headband or something to, or even like, just detecting your thoughts to type. Like, instead of typing with your fingers, you'll type with your thoughts. That's what Facebook is developing right now. And they can actually detect, I forget how many words per minute. It's not that fast yet, but it actually works.
And it's accurate?
Yeah, it's accurate, but
Wow. That's kind of scary.
it's not fast enough yet for maybe commercial production, but yeah, it's happening.
Wow. And that's like something I think it would be safer to stay the hell away from.
But then again, it's convenient. Wouldn't it be great to like type out whole fucking papers and shit by just thinking about it?
That's true. I mean, there is some perks about it and things like that, but I feel like generally they're going to try to make this more appeasing, like for things like that. But then on the other side of the fence, look at how much more they can get out of you. You know what
Right.
I mean? So they're going to sell this like, oh, look, you can now think your essay or you can think your searches and you don't have to type shit.
And
But
yes,
then,
we want that shit. We'd love to have that shit, but
but then
it
it
is
comes
so
with
fucking
more than that.
dangerous.
Yeah, it comes with more than that, and that's going to be the
And
problem.
so there has to be a way that, I mean, this technology is going to come one way or another. If we ban it in this country, it'll be available to other countries and they'll, be more productive than us. So we're probably going to allow it. And plus, we're a super capitalist society that will
Yeah,
allow it anyway.
yeah, you're right.
It's freedom of choice, and we'll allow it for people that want to subject themselves to it. But it definitely will have some benefits, and it's a very attractive thing to be able to do stuff like that.
Now,
To have like a brain interface and be able to have your computer basically be an extension of your mind, and combine that with like, chat GPT.
that's
Like,
serious.
everyone can be like almost like a supercomputer.
Pretty much. But now here's
Uh,
my question.
yeah.
This is all obviously very new, but is this like safe long term? Because like, could there be like brain aneurysms this could result in down
No,
the
no.
line?
So like I said before, like Neuralink, for instance, that's Elon Musk's thing, and a lot of that research is going into like invasive. It's an invasive surgery, not too invasive. They actually have to cut open or drill inside your head and put a little
Right.
device in, right? And so that is like an invasive
Oh yeah.
that not everyone's going to be willing to get. A lot of the research at Neuralink, I guess, is to prevent and cure diseases. Um,
Really?
yeah, or like if someone's like paralyzed, to help them restore their motor neurons, or and help yeah. So there's some good research being done there.
My
Um,
question too, though, is wouldn't it make it easier for them to track you in the long run too? What's to say there won't be a GPS in there?
I mean, I don't think that is really a concern. I mean, they already have us on our cell phones, so
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's true too.
if they want to track you, they'll just have your cell phone and they'll track your cell tower data. Like having it in your head, it's not really necessary.
My whole deal with this data collection is this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you think about it, if you want to run an orderly society where like crime is at its lowest, you're going to have these listening devices on everybody, or the trackers on everybody. So no matter what they do, it's recorded. So boom, you have your proof right there. Streamline all the fucking criminals going through the system. I mean, it's a catch-22. Regardless, this technology is going to happen. It's coming. It's not like
Yeah,
we can
there's no
stop it.
stopping it. You're right.
Yeah,
And it's
but
funny because, like, yeah, it does have some positive perks and stuff.
in the sense of a business sense, if you're a company that sells products, you want to stock your like grocery stores. You want to stock the grocery stores with the items that people are going to buy. You're not going to want to put like say nobody likes blueberry cereal. You put it on the shelves and nobody buys. You have like 1,000 people that come through the store in a week and not one person buys blueberry. You're not going to want that. So if you have that data that says, oh, Mildred on 34th likes to buy her pantyhose from this company, and Georgie over there and B5 likes to have his wheat bread, those things help companies. But again, it's where do you draw the line of giving up privacy for convenience?
Right. Yeah, that's the real bottom line in the whole thing. Because I noticed in
Well,
this country, I noticed some people are very fine with giving away some freedoms for security, but now there's this.
well, not just
Well,
security. It's also like getting ahead. Like
well,
if
yeah,
something makes you more productive, and makes you more attractive as an employee, or you know as people give up their privacy to be on social media.
Yeah, for real.
I
Yeah.
mean, you had posted Rook. You had posted a situation, not posted. You had said a situation where it's going to get to the point where like you know these things can tell when a person is depressed or when a person is anxious and so on and so forth.
Oh yeah,
Have
they
you ever
can already
seen
tell that.
Have you ever seen the movie Minority Report?
Yeah, thought crimes. Yep, that's another
Yeah,
thing that they'll be
exactly.
able to tell.
It's funny you
And
said that. I was going to
actually,
bring
and
that up.
actually, and actually, and actually, so there is an argument that having the ability to tell what people are thinking in terms of criminal activity might not be such a bad thing given the direction we're going in terms of AI.
The human thought process has those intrusive thoughts that pop into your brain. It just
Sure.
happens. You can't be arrested because you say you want to. Oh, what would happen if I just stabbed this guy in front of me? Like one of those things
Yeah.
that pop
Sure,
in the brain.
sure.
It's something stupid and silly, but
But computers are computer algorithms. When they study massive amounts of data, they can predict things about people's behavior that even the person themselves is unable to predict. Because
Wow.
because they have the more data you feed the algorithm, the better the algorithm will become at predicting an outcome.
Have a better understanding. It makes sense.
It may not be perfect. It may not fit everyone. The model may be too broad to fit everyone individually. But you can have more or less a good guess that, that person's depressed, that woman's pregnant, or, that dude is gay. Like, it can, more often than not, if an algorithm is trained on enough data, it will be able to drill down and figure out, people's intent and, people's, whether or not someone is serious about committing crimes. Like if you had brain monitoring with enough data collection of, say, school shooters, you could predict, through use of brain waves, whether or not someone is going to shoot up a school.
You actually do it. Yeah.
And like I'm not saying that kids should be hooked up to brain monitors or whatever, but you would have to say like that would be a way of preventing gun violence. I'm not saying that's what we should do by any means, but we will soon have the capability, I think, of being able to do that. And we're going to have to grapple with that possibility. Right. Now, when it comes to AI and the dangerous direction we're going in with that, like AI is amazing. I love it. But it is also going to be incredibly dangerous for our world because there are people that are going to have access to what are essentially going to become potentially weapons of mass destruction. And highly intelligent computers that can act, semi-autonomously and augment someone's intelligence millions of times to what they're capable of, and able to cause massive amounts of destruction. You can ask them, "Oh, how do I build bombs?" Or, how do I hack into, a chemical plant and cause it to explode? You'll have terrorists and things like that can happen at any time with anyone with access to a computer. You'll be able to ask these like chat GPT like things how to do that and to have them execute it for you. And the way people's mental health is now, some people will just do it out of the fuck of it. They just don't care. Like, fuck it. Like, let's cause some mayhem today. Yeah. Like, you're going to have people that are going to use AI for those purposes.
Scary, but it's true.
One of the considerations is if we have the ability to monitor these types of brainwaves that might predict, when people like that will pop off, should we be able to use that to intervene? We'll soon, in theory, have the capability of doing that. And that's something that we as a society are going to have to grapple and contend with in the near future.
That's very true. And the funny thing is, though, when you talk about like the gun violence aspect of this, there are plenty of countries out there that definitely found things and ways to minimize it at the least when it comes to that. I mean, this country, I guess, hasn't quite got there yet. But like, for example, I'm pretty sure it was Australia, if I'm not mistaken, had like one massive shooting, and then they passed legislation, and they haven't had one since.
Right.
So I mean, like, there's ways of fixing that without all of this too. But
this country but you're thinking, but I mean, gun violence is just one. I mean, there's so many guns on the street, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that, like, even just AI itself, be able, for a common person to, have access to that much power is a radical thing. It's like basically giving people like a nuke.
More or less.
Regular people on the street, a fucking nuke that they can cause massive destruction with. And the question is, do we use, or how do we use, or if we, or, we have the ability to deploy, radiation detectors so that we can detect whether someone's carrying a nuke around and it might be wanting to use it somewhere. The question is, do we use that capability? And I'm definitely not for monitoring people's brains like that,
I
but
agree.
I can see how we have to at least consider it and see if there's some merit or value to it when weighed against the potential dangers that we're exposed to through the advancements in AI.
That's our show for this week, everyone. Strange Planet will have new episodes on YouTube every Friday. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.